Hello and welcome once again. My name is Luz Anabria Reyes and I am back with more helpful information. I hope you enjoyed the previous videos. Today's video, it's all about an organization that it is crucial for the coordination of services during and after a disaster. It is also an organization that the state VAL works closely with. The North Carolina Voluntary Organization Active in Disaster, also known as the NCVOAD, is a crucial partner for emergency management. With us today, we have two representatives from the NCVOAD who will be giving us important information about their organization. Hi, Anne and Greg. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I would like to begin this conversation with a question about, with you introducing yourself, telling us who you are, the type of work you do, and the position you hold in the NCVOAD.
Okay. I'm Greg Lentz, president of Hearts with Hands Disaster Relief in Asheville, North Carolina, and also now the president of the North Carolina VOAD group and organization. And it's a joy to be here with you, and trust that our few moments together will be informational and will be something that could be used as a tool that can be used on calls coming forward and videos coming forward as well. But it's our privilege to be here with you today.
Thank you. How about you, Anne?
I'm Ann Huffman with the North Carolina Conference of the United Methodist Church, and I serve as the Disaster Response Coordinator for our conference, which is roughly the eastern half of North Carolina. I have had the past pleasure of being president of North Carolina VOAD twice recently, and it's an education in the ways that people learn to help other people when a disaster happens. Thank you.
Great. And I know, Anne, you and I had met maybe a couple of years back during when Hurricane Florence hit our state, and I know you have been on the ground several times assisting our community. So it's a pleasure having both of you here today. And so I would like to begin this conversation with the question, what is the NCVOAD? Can you give us a little bit of explanation of the role of the NCVOAD during and after a disaster?
I can. The North Carolina Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster is what the acronym North Carolina VOAD means. And it's an affiliate of the National VOAD organization. And what we do in association with organizations that mitigate and alleviates the impact of disasters. We provide forums for promoting cooperation, communication, coordination, and collaboration during a major storm. So it gives the capability where if the EOC department needs a resource, then because of all the voluntary agencies that are active in disaster times, it gives us that possibility to work together, collaborate together, communicate to each other what resources we have and the way that we can effectively help communities in times of disaster.
And I know for us, VALS, NCVOAD has been a tremendous support. Even though I have known about the NCVOAD for many years, since Hurricane Matthew. And, you know, as before leading a long-term recovery group, we depended a lot on the information that the NCVOAD usually released to the communities about services and resources available. So that's great support. And now as the NCVAL, again, we collaborate a lot with your organization. And so going back to, you know, to the question of who you guys are, how is the NCVOAD structure? How does it operate?
North Carolina VOAD operates as a loose confederation of organizations that are always active when a disaster happens or who become active when a disaster happens to a local area. We begin with local representatives of national organizations, along with long-term recovery groups as they form after a disaster. We also have a collaboration feature where we work with North Carolina Emergency Management and Youth of Owls, as well as with FEMA when there's a national declaration or the potential for a national declaration of a disaster. So we have practical organizations that do feeding, mass care, sheltering, as well as feeding and technical expertise. Something from a technical where we set up, where an organization can come in and help a local area set up a local disaster response, as well as organizations that simply come in and help to serve the people.
Great. And I know that with the NC-VOA, there are subcommittees. Can you tell us a little bit about these subcommittees?
The committees are based on organizations that we have in collaboration, and we try to set those committees to where you have your long-term recovery committee, your bulk distribution committee. You have the case management committee that Ann is over and helps with and does a great job with. And so there's a list on our website on northcarolinaboad.org that folks can get involved with those committees and register to help with those committees. And then volunteers are the main driving factor for all of these committees because most of these organizations are not paid organizations, they are volunteer organizations. So the more volunteers we can have with each one of those committees helps us to betterment our communities and to really reach out to them and help in times of disaster because you'll need child and spiritual care that is involved in the case management. You'll need, situations where you may need a cleanup or debris removal. And so those committees can point to different organizations that can help um, target those areas of need. And so that's the great thing about the VOAD organization as a whole. It brings and collaborates with all of the different groups together so that way all of us can do our part in times of disaster to help each other.
And you mentioned, Greg, you mentioned member organizations. Can you tell us if these member organizations have to be 501c3 to be able to become members of the board? What is your membership requirement?
On the membership requirement, you have a lot of just individual church groups, conference organizations, the long-term recovery groups, and some of those are members, some of those are not, but are still part of the VOAD organization. So we do have a membership requirement as far as vetting groups and vetting organizations and things of that nature with the board. So that way we can be sure that when the VOADs go in and respond, that they are vetted groups. So you just don't want anyone coming in. You don't want anyone just coming in and doing harm to a community. You want them to help that community. So that's one of the ways that through over 60, I think Ann told me, over 60 organizations or churches or conferences now that are members of the North Carolina BOAD. It gives us an opportunity to pull from a great range of groups and individuals and bring all of that expertise together so that way we can help more people and be more advantageous in the efforts of helping communities in times of disaster. So basically, in the website again, they can go to how to join, um, how to become a member of the North Carolina VOAD, and it gives all of those explanations there of the vetting process.
And finally, and can you tell me, based on your experience, which I know it's a lot of experience that you have working in disaster recovery and long-term recovery, can you tell us what has been the greatest challenge that the NCVOA has faced when confronting disaster situations in our state?
The most challenging thing that we have faced in North Carolina VOAD has been communication. Though we have constant contact through conference calls when a disaster happens, we still have organizations that perhaps are not members of VOAD or members who just don't communicate before they show up at a disaster. That is one of the chief reasons for having the VOAD conference calls, is so that organizations can communicate where they plan to set up, what type of work they plan to do, so that you don't, say, have two groups feeding on opposite street corners while another area that is severely affected by the disaster doesn't have that opportunity to have the food. Whereas if these were communicated and the organizations separate themselves according to the need, that will help quite a bit. And also, what I hinted at before is just showing up at a disaster can put a local area at a disadvantage. Perhaps they're not prepared to support the help that comes from the outside, or just not being familiar with the organization that's coming in. So if an organization plans to respond in a particular county, please contact the local emergency manager before you come into that area to serve.
Okay, and if organizations want to get in contact with the NCVOA and whomever is organizing at the time of disaster, who will they be contacting? Do they have to go to the website and send an email through the website, or is there a particular person who they will be able to get in contact with?
Yeah, they go to the website and there's an info page there that they can fill in that information, and then we check those daily to make sure if there's something that needs to be. It's the homepage, and it talks about join the North Carolina VOAD. It talks about all the different things there. But the info part, they can go in and actually put their organization, their contact, their information, and then we can get back with them. And then we have CERT teams, SERT, that actually man the EOC during times of disaster. And so they're in constant contact with us as far as the board and myself as the president. So that way, when we have calls, we can say, okay, this is what came in today from the EOC. This is an area that needs assistance. Can some group help with this area? And so that way, again, it keeps the communication lines open, it keeps the collaboration opportunities where we're working together. And so that's a great way that they can go. And then we can respond to them after finding out if they, write in a question, email a question in, then we can find that information out through the EOC and bring that information back to them.
Great, and thank you for giving us a lot of information. We have reached the end of our interview. I just wanted to ask you both if there's anything else that you would like to let the public know. Is there any other information that you may think that it's important for the public to know, but we have not mentioned it? So I'm just leaving the floor open for you to let us know if there's anything else that you would like to say.
There's a groups.io communication that can be sent out to anyone who'd like to sign up. The address for that particular group is NC-LTRGS at groups, GROUPS.io. Members can just post something to that website by that communication tool by simply emailing to that particular address, and it will go to the entire membership plus the people and groups that have signed up to that particular group.
Well, thank you so much for participating in this video. To our viewers, the work is not done. We still have people who are trying to recover from the past hurricanes. So remember, recovery of a community begins with the community and ends in the community. The NC VOAD needs our support. Please call them, email them, or visit their brand new website to know how you can get involved with them. Next video will be all about the long-term recovery groups. So stay tuned and thank you for watching us today. Thank you, Greg and Ann.